Well, hello, everyone. My name is Hector Del Castillo, and I'm founder of BoldPM. And I want to welcome all of you to today's session, the Business Intelligentsia DC. Today's topic is State of Business Analytics in 2021. We'll be sharing some recently published reports from different sources that talk about the state of business analytics and what is happening in the analytics and data analytics market. So we're going to start with what is the state? We're going to be answering today's discussion. We're going to be answering this question. What is the state of the analytics market in 2021, specifically in North America? As you know, this is a global market, but we're going to be focusing specifically on what's been happening in North America, because in North America, the majority of businesses that are consuming data analytics and business intelligence platforms and services the majority of them are in North America and the top 40 economies in the world. So we're going to talk about this, but we'll also talk about key takeaways. And then before we wrap up, we're going to have a Q&A portion. So this is your chance to ask any questions, and you can do so by typing in the chat window any questions you might have. You can also, during the Q&A portion, you can open up your mic and then ask your question. If you want to wait until then. So let's go ahead and get started. Some of the key takeaways, and the key takeaways are from different reports. This one happens to be from the Science report that was published in 2020. There were three key takeaways. That is, number one, most BI and analytics professionals remain optimistic that they're going to continue working because actively many organizations have changing business needs, and that means that new metrics and new analytics need to be implemented. And often that is job security for any business intelligence and analytics professional. And also what we saw in 2020 all the way through the recovery in 2021 is that digital transformation initiatives have entailed significantly adoption to do a lot of analytics, especially on the mid-market and small businesses. And small businesses are the typical small businesses that are what I would call the street type of businesses that you see out there, retailers, as well as online small businesses, have all been furiously trying to figure out how to do different types of analytics to ensure that they can continue to operate and make better data-driven decisions. And then number three, companies are using their data in new ways because they're looking at ways of being able to not just monetize from the data, but also increase the data quality. And what they found out is that usually data quality suffers as you're trying to, when you have too many things that are changing out in the market. A different study, this was actually published by Select Hub, states that around 50% of all customer interactions are now being handled by AI bots, which means that for the most part, anyone that has a chat now capability on their website, you're not interacting with a person, you're interacting with a bot. And that's where the majority of these chat bots are being implemented. They're actually text bots, so that you can actually type in a question and then you can get some sort of answer. And it's based on some sort of AI algorithm that requires some training before it continues to improve over time. The majority of the work has been in chatbots for this year in an attempt to automate customer service, but also improve the customer experience for most organizations that don't necessarily need to have somebody or can't afford to have somebody live interacting with customers in their chat capability on their websites. And many of these also are triggering voice chatbots as well that are AI for phone conversations. And this can be for outbound as well as for inbound phone conversations. Many of these bots are also voice bots as well. And of course, a lot of analytics because you're trying to figure out what, try to measure what is that customer experience when there's a bot involved, and trying to figure out, measure customer experience when they're interacting with a bot, either via text or via a phone conversation. A different key takeaway, and this is actually from also Select Hub Software, and this is actually part of their blog, that was published earlier this year says these are the key takeaways of what they see happening throughout 2021 and beyond. Number one, data quality management is key, meaning data tends to change very quickly. And for those of you who have actually tried to extract, let's say, a set of contacts from LinkedIn or anywhere else, you find very quickly that there's been a lot of churn. And usually as you start contacting these people, you'll find that even if you have working emails a week before, the next time that you actually are doing a campaign, many of those email addresses are no longer valid. And that is because there's been an outstanding number of churn in employees, people who have going from one company to another, and that has been part of the so-called great attrition, which in many cases have been just people going from one company to another. And so if these are your target audience and you're trying to do a lot of email marketing or even phone call marketing, many of these contacts are only good for a few months and then they will change jobs. And then you have to reacquire a whole new batch of contacts. And that has to do with data quality, because these changes in the market means that you had working data that was high quality, and now you're trying to trying to figure out how to gain more contacts and focus on the changes that are happening outside of your control. And it's a continuous process that you have to do this, especially if you're relying on doing a lot of email marketing to a good number of people so that you can get a good client flow, or even if you're doing telemarketing, or maybe you're doing some sort of integrated marketing campaign, it entails that you now have changing interactions with your prospective customers before you get into sales conversion. In addition, predictive and prescriptive analytics are changing the analytics game, meaning a lot of people are trying to now implement predictive and prescriptive analytics both. And there's a difference. We talked previously that predictive analytics is what most people think is what what allows them to anticipate what's going on. But prescriptive analytics tells you that when you start looking at anticipating something that it's about to happen, figuring out what is the best option, the best decision to make before that change actually happens in the market. And that is prescriptive analytics. And many organizations are trying to figure out how to do this with some sort of low code or no code solution, which has been a challenge for most of these platforms that want to be a generic platform that can be easily customized for your specific business applications. So you have changing business needs, and then you also have new requirements that are coming up because of market changes that no one controls. And often this is job security for most data analysts, and also job security for the developers of platforms that are trying to keep up with changing business needs and the changing needs of their business customers. Number three, self-service is shaping the future of digital analytics by lowering the barrier of entry into the world of business analytics. And so part of it is figuring out what that total cost of ownership is, and figuring out that through self-service, how can you reduce that so that you don't have to be dependent on your IT department, or that you're not depending on some service provider to actually make updates to the way that you're customizing some sort of analytics platform that you're adopting from someone or that you're licensing from someone. Number four, privacy and personalization is also key, and which means that you have to ensure you have a more secure solution so that it can be hacked, or that somebody can't be extracting the information that is for your prospective customers or current customers, and that you're protecting their privacy as well as you're protecting your data from your competition. And a lot of this has been figuring out how to actually increase the security and therefore the privacy of the data that you're collecting and that you're maintaining. So a lot of these have been going on now, that a lot of people have gone into this furiously trying to go into digital transformation and being able to still be able to keep ahead of their competitors and keep up with the changes in the market as well. Same report from Science that was published last year. And I looked, and this year, I don't know why, but Science didn't publish a report, a state of BI and analytics for this year in 2021. So the most recent one is the one that was published in 2020, and this is where this data is coming from. Increasing critical during that, basically increasing critical to make data-driven decisions, and that's across pretty much all businesses, but it really has impacted a lot of the mid-market and smaller businesses. As I mentioned before, there's been a lot of adoption on smaller businesses trying to figure out how to really make data-driven decisions. And they were kind of lagging before in 2019, and all of this kind of accelerated in 2020 and 2021 post-pandemic to try to recover and try to retain customers as well as gain new customers. And the importance of BI tools in daily activities has been increasing as well across all types of businesses. So it's a great picture and a great time to be in data analytics if you want to get into this world, or if you want to stay in. You can actually work for pretty much any company, because most companies are right now trying to fiercely adopt and continue to cater to changing their business needs and market changes as well. In addition, most people are showing optimism towards using some sort of BI and data analytics solution, specifically because they're interested in doing two things. Number one, figure out how to manage their data more effectively so that they don't have to sink in a lot of people or waste a lot of effort in doing that, and also reduce cost of operations. So automation is key. And then number two, the other thing they're doing is trying to increase the data quality and keep the data quality up, because they find that having errors and omissions in your data, the information that you're going to be basing making decisions on, you're not going to be able to make any reliable predictions or prescriptive decisions if you don't have high data quality. And so data management and data quality are key. And doing that means that you have to kind of figure out how to cost reduce and automate as much as possible. And this is why you have so much of this integration of artificial intelligence along with to actually get higher and better, more efficiency in the way you manage your data, but also increase the data quality, the quality of your data as well. And that's what's been going on. And as I mentioned earlier, a lot of adoption in the smaller businesses. Smaller businesses are the ones that have already gotten to at least the 1 million mark in revenue, annual revenue, on up to about 50 million in revenue. After that, you become a mid-market company, and then you're already at that point, in many cases, across not just one market, but multiple markets as a mid-market organization. So most small businesses are doing this in an attempt to continue growing and become a mid-market company at some point in the future, in the next 3 to 5 years. So what is the difference between business intelligence and analytics? This is one of the questions that we focus on because there's a difference, and we're going to talk about and defining each one of these terms. So business intelligence is the following. It leverages software platforms and services, both, to transform information that you're collecting into actionable insights that inform different aspects of the organization, from executives to senior managers to other managers, and even the end users, maybe workers as well, because it may be about figuring out how to improve the customer experience, or it's about figuring out how to retain and or acquire more customers, but ensuring that you're gauging satisfaction and also measuring the customer experience and make sure that it actually meets the customer's expectations. And this is where business intelligence typically started, because business intelligence came first, and then it turned into analytics. And analytics is now being able to take a whole data set of information that you've kept for years, sometimes decades, even as a small business, if you've been around for that long, is trying to figure out how to do that mining of data that you have acquired over as long as your business has been around, and start doing some statistical analysis to try to predict what seasonality is like and why these longer term changes are occurring in your market, not just in your immediate customers, but also your entire business ecosystem and how it changes from being a buyer's market to being a seller's market, to having leverage over your suppliers, to your suppliers having leverage over you and everybody and all your competition. And that usually will impact your costs of operation. And all of this is trying to figure out how to make smarter decisions about how to manage your suppliers better, how to compete your suppliers so you can continue to operate and keep your operations, your cost of operations low, and specifically how to turn the variable costs that keep coming up. The more you sell, the more your operational costs increase, and turning those variable costs into fixed costs so that even you can acquire 20 times more customers and your costs are now mostly fixed for the most part. Yes, they may increase a little bit at a time, but now you can actually service a lot more customers and maintain that. This is where business analytics is figuring out how to do the statistical analysis of entire business sets across every aspect of a business for an organization. And here's the evolution of business analytics into data analytics, right? It started with the cognitive approach or the descriptive approach of what happened, to diagnostic, why did it happen, to predictive, what could happen and how can we, make good things happen, and how can we prevent bad things from impacting our business or disrupting our business. And then shifting into prescriptive, which means how to make it happen. In other words, once you find that there are some things that may be good for the business, how do you make those things happen more often, and how to upsell and cross-sell to your customers at the right time. And then finally, getting into the cognitive stage is what to do, why, and how to go about doing it, which means about not only understanding that you need to make different things go on, but also adjust your processes so that people know exactly how to proceed once a decision to make a change is about to be implemented, so that you can actually figure out how to start shifting your resources to keep working the right way and operate your business at a high efficiency. And now comparison. So Gartner has published year after year the Magic Quadrant for analytics and business intelligence platforms. And here's a snapshot of what it was like in 2015. Noted how crowded it was. And this was 2015, where lots of different companies were spread across these 4 quadrants that are challengers, leaders, niche players, and visionaries. And then look what it is right now. As of 2021, now you have a whole new reset, a few less companies now in 2021 compared to 2015, because there's been a lot of merger and acquisitions happening in platform vendors. And the winners, they have spread out over the last 3 years, I want to say. The leaders are Microsoft with their Power BI solution, and then Tableau. Tableau now being part of Salesforce, because they have been acquired by Salesforce now, and they continue to operate on their own, but Salesforce now owns Tableau. And Qlik. And of course, Qlik, all 3 of them have been making acquisitions across the same space. And this is why there's less companies now and a little bit more separation between the leaders. The top 3 leaders, based on Analyst reviews, Microsoft, Tableau, and Qlik. And the new players that have now sprung up, which is like ThoughtSpot, for example. So let's move on to now looking at the customer's choice. So as of 2020, Gartner started publishing from the customer's point of view. And here's a comparison of the 2020 customer's choice of the same platforms versus 2021. So look at what happened at the top customer choice quadrant, which is the one on the upper right. In 2020, 2 companies came up, Sisense and ThoughtSpot. As of 2021, 2 more companies have sprung up into being part of the customer's choice. IBM with their Watson Analytics, and I believe they also have their Cognos platform are part of both the IBM offerings, and then MicroStrategy. So you would say, okay, these are big companies now, and now why have they become all of a sudden customer choice? Well, IBM is because of Watson Analytics, right? It's augmented an AI embedded, integrated with a leading analytics solution, which is based on their Cognos approach, their Cognos platform. And that has been key for IBM to become a customer choice. But then MicroStrategy, what have they been doing, and where were they at in 2020, and how did they actually get from being in the low quadrant to being in the low-high quadrant? I believe that what MicroStrategy has been doing is they have been sort of like doing this a lot of development in the background, and they just started now going to market with it as of 2020. And they are today the low total cost of ownership leaders across any of these players that are here. As a matter of fact, there was a published article that I saw last week that they actually have been recognized. MicroStrategy has been recognized as being the lowest TCO vendor for this type of platform, which means that the total cost of ownership is lowest for anyone that has now adopted or has been adopting, is in the process of adopting a MicroStrategy approach, a MicroStrategy solution based on their platform. Pound for pound, feature for feature, they match any of these companies, but now they're also have adjusted their pricing to be able to sell into small businesses. They started by targeting large enterprise and have been coming down in their pricing to now also market to the mid-market companies. And now they have actually also introduced pricing plans for small businesses as well. This is why MicroStrategy is now part of the customer's choice quadrant. Now, taking a look at Analyst versus customer choice, here you have the top 3 leaders. And guess what? Of the top 3 leaders, only one of them, ThoughtSpot, is a customer choice. So ThoughtSpot, that started by getting a large enterprise, they've also have been doing over time to try to increase their market share. They have actually started adjusting their price plans as well. And today, ThoughtSpot is a great choice if you are a mid-market company. Not so much choice, as far as if you're a price-sensitive customer, like a small business, is not yet priced for small businesses, but ThoughtSpot has been coming down in pricing, and I think right now they're in the middle of still capturing market share in mid-market companies. And at some point, they're probably going to do the same thing that MicroStrategy has done now, which is to actually start targeting small businesses. But ThoughtSpot starting to target from the large enterprise to mid-market, and are still doing that. They haven't really priced or make any price adjustments for small businesses yet. But this is where you're seeing that if you correlate the top 3 leaders versus the top 4 customer choice, you'll see that ThoughtSpot right now is the only one that has that is in here. Microsoft, Tableau, Click are not in here. ThoughtSpot is about to move up. I believe that's going to be happening in 2022 because they're right at the edge of a visionary and being a leader. And I think a part of being a leader is they need to increase their market share against in large enterprise as well as mid-market companies, so that they can actually be in the leaders along with Microsoft, Tableau, and Click. So that's 2 different perspectives from Gartner. Here are some of the top questions for about, if you're in the middle of adopting a BI solution and turning on a new BI platform, these are the top 5 questions you want to have clarity on. Number 1, what is your budget like? Because that's going to influence which one of these 4 customer choice platforms you need to look at. Also, what problems are you trying to solve within your organization? And who are your end users? What are your must-have capabilities? And by the way, I want to say In many cases, your end users are not just going to be internal. Often they're going to be external, which means they're going to be your suppliers, your partners, or your customers, and other people that are part of your business ecosystems. So sometimes your end users are not just internal. Sometimes you also need to have external users. What are your must-have capabilities, and what are your expectations as to how often changes need to be made, the velocity of those changes, and the average number of changes that have to be done in any 12-month period? You have to have clarity on that, so that usually you have to account into all this, not just what you're going to pay upfront, but what is your total cost of ownership? And it goes back to that question as to why MicroStrategy is now a customer choice when they were not there the previous year, right? If you do the MicroStrategy thing, they've actually have adjusted the price points based on the price sensitivity of their B2B customers and divided them into at least 3 different segments: large enterprise, mid-market, and then small business. That's the same thing that you want to figure out, where are you at and who's got the better total cost of ownership advantage with all the features that you need and the expected changes and the amount of changes and the velocity of changes that you would need to implement over time once you begin adopting. We talked about also that there's majority of organizations today are working on furiously do better data management. They're also trying to do better data integration and also increase the quality of their data. So let's talk about what these 3 different terms, the meaning of these different terms. So first of all, let's define what is data management. So data management is a set of technologies and the ability to start looking at your business and ensuring there's uniformity, accuracy, governance, to the version control, so to speak, to the way you're collecting information and the way you're curating the information that you have about your business across every single function that is critical to your business. And from most reports you see out there, most businesses, even as a small business, have somewhere between 7 different functions that are critical to start measuring and quantifying. And you have analytics across these 7 functions, all the way up to maybe as many as 14 different functions when you are growing to become a large enterprise. And these are all parts of things that you want to do, is you have version control very early on so that you can continue to do that as your business continues to grow. Then there's data integration, and data integration is about figuring out what are the best practices and the techniques and the methods and the tools that you're going to be using to allow your organization to have this process by which you will ingest data, transform it, combine it when you're actually trying to bring in not just your own data, but also bring in third-party information that you're licensing or buying from someone, and then provisioning it across all of your end users, both internal and external as well. So that's data integration, and data integration is also a lot of work, especially as you're trying to grow your business. The more people that are involved, the more stakeholders that need to consume the data, the more integration, the more you have to work on integration. And then there's data quality, and data quality relates to the processes and the technologies for identifying, understanding, and correcting any errors or omissions in your information, or the way you collect your information, to ensure that there are 0 errors and omissions. If you ever have dealt with data that has a high rate of errors and omissions, you know that whatever decision you're going to be making of your data is more than likely going to be the wrong decision. And that is because any information that is flawed is going to bias your decision in the wrong direction. And this is why you want to make sure that you start measuring and start figuring out how to quantify your data quality and make sure that your data quality is as high as it can possibly be in order to avoid getting into making the wrong decisions, especially when these are going to be about critical business decisions that need to be made in the next few for the future of your business. And then finally, there are different quadrants that also Gartner has published for all three of these: data management, the middle one is integration, and the one on the right is about quality. And look at this, the majority of these vendors, there's a lot of overlap between all of these vendors that are providing some sort of platform that tries to automate data management, tries to automate data integration, and also attempts to automate data quality. And the majority of new companies where they're trying to furiously figuring out who's going to get to become a market share leader are companies that are doing all three: data management, data integration, and data quality at the same time. And therefore, right now, yes, between the three, it's a highly fragmented market, but there are a few that overlap across at least two out of these three things that need to be done, and that most organizations are trying to figure out how to automate data management, automate data integration, and automate data quality, and trying to get the highest data quality with the least amount of work possible, so that you can now start focusing on making the better decisions that are based on the information that you're collecting, that you're curating, and that you're integrating, combining, and then putting it in the hands of the end users that need to make critical decisions, whether that's at the management level, senior management, or executive level. These are all the different swim lanes that you need to have. All three of these have to have high degrees of the way you govern your data, the way you integrate your data, and the way that the quality of your data also has to be high. For further reading, and as we get into the Q&A portion, we're going to have these links available from the post-event page that we're going to be publishing. This video, the video of today's discussion, will also be part of that, and then we'll also be publishing the entire slide decks for you to view, and that's all going to be part of the post-event link that we'll be sending out to all of you. A little bit more about BoldPM Academy. That's actually a series of live online workshops that I've introduced as part of BoldPM. This is for specifically modern product professionals who want to continue growing and becoming better product managers and building their expertise in product management. And for more information, you can go to the short link at the bottom of this page for more information about upcoming live online courses, and we're in the process of adding more for 2022. And also, if you're looking to boost your skills, you can go to that URL and also reach out to me if you're interested in continuing to do that growth. A little bit more about BoldPM. We inspire the next generation of product leaders to turn ideas into valuable and profitable products. And we help organizations grow high-performing teams, but we also help them build their organization's growth engine. And with that, I'd like to open up for any questions, if there's any questions, and I'll be monitoring the chat. I don't know that there's any questions, but if you have any questions, you can either type them into the chat, or you can just chime in the audio and we can just review some of the information that I went over earlier today. Are there any questions from the audience? And one of the things that I wanted to ask and one of the questions that I get asked is, some of these definitions actually have, we're going to be including them. As I mentioned, we're going to be including the slides. So this information about the definitions of data management, data quality, data integration, the difference between business analytics and data analytics, we're going to be making them accessible to you on the post-event page so that you won't get confused. I know I went over this information very quickly, but you can always refer back to it because it'll be part of the information that you're going to be getting from the post-event page once we have this available after today's discussion. So I just wanted to point that out because we normally will include this type of information along with other references that are out there available. There'll be links to those places where you can get a little bit deeper into some of this information that I spoke about earlier. And that includes the references that I showed earlier for further reading. So I just wanted to make sure that I would point that out. I don't see any questions on the chat. So with that, if you can also contact me, and here's my email. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn. That's the short URL here is the one that leads to my LinkedIn profile. And you can also follow me on Twitter as well. These are the three ways you can contact me if you have any questions about today's discussion or any questions of anything that I spoke about earlier today. Feel free to reach out. We're also going to be continuing our series, and this is actually the end of the year 2021, but we'll continue our series of discussions starting in February of 2022. And we're actively looking for experts in the various topics that we showed earlier. And if you happen to know of anyone, or if your company wants to sponsor a case study or a demo of any of the platforms that are here that I showed earlier here, or you have another platform for any of the other technologies that we're looking at, feel free to reach out, because we're in the process of also having a call for speakers for 2022. And if your company is interested in sponsoring, let us know, because we can actually reach out and agree on a topic and a future date and time when you can present either your case study and or demo of your platform. So with that, I want to thank all of you for attending today. Thank you so much. Have a great holiday season this year before at the end of the year. And we are looking forward to seeing you again next year in 2022 for continuing our sessions of the Business Intelligentsia DC. Thank you so much for attending, and reach out to us if you have any questions. Have great, wonderful holidays.